Alright, so this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while. I wanted to make sure that my head was in the right place. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be speaking out of anger. So I think I'm ready. I don't know how this is going to go. I might just kind of be all over the place, but here we go. So I want to start off by saying that I know that the internet is a cruel place. I know that there are very mean people on the internet, and I know that by being the type of person that puts a lot of her life on the internet, I know that I am going to get a certain response from people. So it's not, I don't want to say it's surprising that this happened, but it's just, it sucks. I don't know what it is. I know that putting my life on the internet could potentially lead to this. But anyway, so those of you that know me, or those of you that have been around for a while, know that I went through a very bad mental state in my last off season. I did a video on this a little bit over a year ago of how my body dysmorphia basically fucked with me, fucked with my head and a bunch of other things, and that's another video. I'll link it down below so if you guys are curious, if you're new. But yeah, so my off season last year, or last time, was very, I was depressed, I was sad, I was in a bad place. So what I did in my off season, that like helped me get through, was I would, post comparisons, from my prep to my off season to see, like physically see, like, hey, look, you are making improvements. You're not just fat, because in my head I was just fat, and that's one of the main reasons why I was in such a shitty mental space. But I'm trying to make this as short as possible without like just rambling on. So yeah, I would post comparisons. I would post what I looked like. I would post, raw, unfiltered stuff like, me with a little belly, me with love handles, me with cellulite, just this is what I looked like in my off season. And I would talk about how I felt and, like the different changes in my body and like all of that. So last year I did 2 shows, one in August and one in December. It was my first, I call it my first official wellness prep, because I actually looked like a wellness competitor. So during my prep, I did the same thing as I did in my off season, which is I made comparisons. I posted comparisons from my first prep to my current prep because I was in awe of the difference. So yeah, I was in awe of the difference in my physique from my first prep to my current prep at the time. So one particular time, I'm gonna find the post. So it was 6 weeks out in 2021 versus 6 weeks out in 2023. So I'll go ahead and post the comparison right here. So I posted that, and my coach reposted it. I don't know if I saved that, but my coach reposted the post on his story, and his words were, someone said that Dee had just gotten fat. Here's proof that she didn't, or don't underestimate us. Something along those lines. Something about someone had said that I just got fat in my off season. And I saw it and I was kind of like, what? Like, what do you mean someone said I just got fat in my off season? So apparently, there is a podcast that took a specific post I made in my off season, and made an entire podcast about it. Basically, talking shit, saying that I had just gotten fat in my off season, and that there was no way that I could have built any muscle. I want to say my coach told me this. This was like about 6 weeks out from my first show last year. And that day, he kind of just briefly said that. And I was just like, what? That's crazy. I didn't think much of it. I was just like, I can't believe someone would do that. Right? So he told me that he found out about this. Hold on. I'm looking for something. I'm sorry. Okay. So he told me that he found out about this post or this podcast very soon after I made this particular post on my Instagram, which was back in March of 2022. So if you've been around that long, whether you've been around that long or not, at that particular point in my off season was probably the lowest I've ever been. I ever was, mentally. So he told me that he found out very early on about this podcast, but he decided not to tell me about it because he knew where I was mentally, and he knew that if he told me about it, that I would take it very seriously. Instead, he decided not to tell me about it and just let me keep doing the work. He told me this 6 weeks out from my first show last year. So about a year and a half after that podcast came out. I want to first of all say thank you to my coach for doing that, for taking care of my mental health in that way, because he's absolutely right. If I would have known about this podcast at the time, it would have broke me. I would have, I don't know, I'm very glad that he chose to keep that from me. By the time he told me this, I was in a really good place, not only because I was on prep and because, I was doing very good, but because I had learned, a lot in my off season. I grew a lot. So he found the podcast, maybe like 2 weeks before my show, and I listened to it. He sent it to me and he said, here's some fuel for the fire, or let's finish strong, something like that. And I listened to it, and basically these two individuals took that post apart and took me apart. They said that I was fat. They said that there was no way I could gain any muscle in my off season. They said that I was going to have to do a ridiculous amount of cardio the next time I prepped just to be able to get rid of all the fat that I had gained. They said that in that post, I said I gained 30 pounds. They said that the most that I could have possibly gained in muscle was like 3 or 4 pounds or something along those lines. Very small number. They said a lot. They said a lot. I remember listening to it like, you guys don't know anything about me. You guys are going based off of this one post where I was very vulnerable. Like, in the freaking post, I literally say how much it took for me to put those pictures next to each other and what it felt to see those pictures next to each other. And not once, the biggest thing in that stupid podcast, not once did they mention that I was a wellness competitor. They just said, this girl just got fat. If I'm going to summarize the hour to hour and a half podcast that was put out about me, they said she got fat, she didn't gain any muscle, her next prep is going to suck. That's what the podcast said. And when I listened to it, I was mad, but not mad because they were wrong, but mad because they didn't have all the details. And they decided to talk to, this is a bodybuilding podcast, so they decided to talk to all these bodybuilders that look up to these people. By the way, I looked up to one of those people for a very long time. And said that gaining weight in your off season, or gaining that much weight in your off season, just meant you got fat. And they said, here's this girl, here's an example of what not to do. I think about it, I've thought about it for the last couple of days. And I'm just like, I don't understand how these individuals thought it was okay to pick someone apart like that. Because had they known anything about me, anything about what I was going through, what if I had found that podcast on my own? Do you know what could have happened to me? Do you know how I would have reacted? I was in a terrible mental space. I was in a place where I thought I didn't belong in this fucking world anymore. And here go these two people basically saying, you're doing it wrong. The one thing that you love, bodybuilding, you're doing it wrong. You fucked up. You're gonna have shitty fucking prep. And you did absolutely everything wrong in your off season. Basically saying the things that I thought in my head in my off season. That I was fat, that I was doing it wrong, that there was no way I built any muscle. Like everything that I was telling myself that wasn't true, they were putting it out into the world and basically saying, yeah, what's in your head, it's true. Fast forward to a year and a half later, where I went from 97-pound stage weight to 110-pound stage weight. I gained, what, about 13 pounds of muscle in a year and a half, when they said that I could only gain 3 to 4 pounds. It makes me angry to think that I could have found that podcast on my own, or someone else could have, shown it to me earlier, or at a time where I was in a really bad mental space, and it could have fucking broke me. It could have unalived me, because apparently you can't say that other word here. And they don't realize that. People on the internet don't fucking realize how much what they say can affect people. I'm really glad that I'm in a place where I don't give a shit anymore. Like, I don't care what anyone has to say about me, because I know I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, and I know I'm doing it right, because it's working, But there are other people who could be or are in the space that I was at the time that this podcast came out, and the outcome could be completely different. Really freaking bad. So my coach ended up messaging one of the individuals, basically like, hey, look, motherfucker. Just kidding, he did not say that, but I would have. But basically like, listen, you don't know a thing, because look at her now. You said this about her, but these are the facts. The individual gave an apology, if you want to call it that. He said, no, I guess I just said it's a he, whatever. It's a he and a she. That it was very rare and unusual for someone to gain that much muscle in the time span that I had my off season, and all this other junk that honestly doesn't matter. I didn't care for the apology. Like, I didn't need it. My coach sought it out for me, which, he's awesome. But the point of all of this is simply that, one, I have the best fucking coach ever, because not only does he care about my physical health, but he cares about my mental health. And he understands me so well, and he understood me so well at the time to know not to put certain information in my head, to keep me safe, to keep my mental space safe. That's one. My coach is awesome. And two, that people are fucking shitty. Like, I'm going, it doesn't affect me. Like, it doesn't affect me in the sense that, it's not gonna stop me from doing what I'm doing. It doesn't bother me that they said those things anymore, because I proved them wrong without knowing that I was proving them wrong. Like, all I did was put my head down, do the fucking work. which is what my coach said. Like, I didn't tell you because you were going to hear that you were fat and you were going to believe it, and then you weren't going to do what you're supposed to. Instead, you know, you kept going, you kept doing exactly what you were doing, and this was the outcome. So, you know, like I said, I proved them wrong without knowing that I was proving them wrong. I just did exactly what I was told, exactly what I was supposed to. And the outcome was incredible. Like, from my first show to my second show to my third show, my physiques improved, which is the freaking point of an off season, for you to build something to improve so that your next show, you're better. But I know they're not going to see this. And I know that they don't care. And I know that they think that their apology fixed everything. But I just want, not just them, but, you know, bullies to know that there are people in this world who are not as strong, mentally strong, to survive that. To know that there are people out there saying things about you. Sometimes they say it to your face, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they make a podcast out of you. I lost my train of thought. But that was not okay. It was not okay. And the cyberbullies of the world need to know that. I know this isn't going to do anything. Cyberbullies are forever going to exist. But it's not okay. It's not okay to pick someone apart like that. Simply because what they're doing doesn't go with what you think is right. But it just blows my mind how badly this could have gone had I seen it sooner. It hurts my feelings. It hurts because I put myself back in that place where I was. I remember exactly where I was mentally. And I put that D listening to the podcast at the time. And it breaks my heart. This D is a little bit heartbroken because she knows what that D would have felt. This D is just going to keep doing what she's doing because she proved those motherfuckers wrong. But more importantly, not only did I prove them wrong, but I grew. I learned a lot about bodybuilding, myself, and all that fun stuff. So at this point, I feel like I'm just rambling. I wanted to put this out there. I wanted to get it out of my head because it's been in my head for a couple of days. I know there's more. My coach said there's more, but I haven't gotten there yet. We haven't had that conversation, and it's fine. Okay, I'm gonna leave you with this. It doesn't matter what anyone says. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. Nothing matters except you, how you feel, what makes you happy. Not everyone is going to understand your life, and that's okay. They don't have to. It's your life. You're the one living it. So do whatever the fuck you want to do. Be as loud, be as quiet as you want. Do what you want. And don't listen to other people. Because most of the time, when someone feels the need to talk bad about you or say anything about you, it's because they are not happy with their own lives. And I've had multiple of those, not just this podcast, but people on my Instagram that I know personally who've talked shit to me, judged me. It's fine. It's my life. If they don't like it, they don't have to be a part of it. Don't let anyone break you.